Hi everyone, and welcome to our webinar on CEDARS reporting for ALE courses. I'm Anissa Sherritt, ALE Program Manager, and I'm facilitating this webinar solo today, so I appreciate your patience while I navigate through the slides and also take a look at questions that might pop up. Feel free to ask any questions. If there's something that I can't answer, then I can also connect you with Lisa Ireland from our Student Information Department here at OSPI. Lisa is out on the road traveling today across the state giving presentations, but she is a great resource as well. As always, we like to begin our presentations with a recap of the OSPI vision and mission. We are here to support districts and educators in helping their students be successful and prepared for post-secondary life. At a department level, we focus that down a bit more and work to ensure that the flexible instructional models of ALE and online learning is meeting the needs of students. And that by providing technical assistance, tools, and resources to programs and districts, they can better use these models to serve their students. Today, I will be sharing an overview of the CEDARS reporting process and importance of good data quality. I will cover the change in course type definitions for the 2018-19 school year, in addition to reviewing the CEDARS reporting requirement for ALE courses. Then we will move into a discussion around the current quality of CEDARS data for ALE courses and reporting challenges. We will talk about the roles of various stakeholders and resources available to programs. Data reporting begins with common language. Statewide data only makes sense if everyone has the same understanding of what they are reporting. What is being reported should also reflect the actual practice. These two elements are critical for data to be analyzed by others. Once the common language is established, reporting begins locally in the student information system. The emphasis is that this data collection and entry is done well and consistently. Once the information is in the system and the school and district can use this data, teachers, counselors, school administrators, as well as district administrators use this data for a variety of reasons. This might be broadly to understand the demographics of a school and classroom, as well as to identify successes and challenges in a continuous improvement process. This is likely the most up-to-date data available at the school as well. So you may also use this information to track and flag individual students as part of an early warning and intervention system by looking for shifts in grades, attendance, and behavior. While teachers and schools definitely know their students, data gives a unique lens that may catch some of those students that might be more quiet when they begin to struggle. The next component is when the local student information system communicates with the statewide Comprehensive Education Data and Research System, also known as CEDARS. This is typically updating regularly through the school year, but usually is in flux and not finalized until late fall of the following year. As a result, CEDARS data is only available for research and publication for prior school years, not the current school year. The alternative learning experience data that CEDARS collects is the ALE course type assignment in the student schedule file and student grade history. ALE course type defines the instructional model for the student in a specific course. Once the data has been finalized, OSPI and other stakeholders use this data. The Alternative Learning Department would really like to be able to use this data to better understand the scope of ALE, the population served statewide, and to comparatively look at programs. Hopefully, we will then be able to identify programs serving similar populations and also identify outliers. All in all, this will inform how we at the state devote resources and supports for alternative learning. Once again, this data is critical for statewide support of alternative learning. The quality of the data is therefore essential. Quality data comes from a common understanding of the data elements, Reported data reflects practice and reliable and consistent reporting of that data. That's how we get strong data quality. So what a lot of you are probably interested in hearing about are the new course type definitions for the 2018-19 school year. If you aren't already aware, these definitions have changed. And just some history on this, the state auditor's performance audit report that was released back in February of 2016 highlighted some kind of poor quality of data in ALE. And as we began to dig into why, we started to look for trends in the questions that we were receiving and looking at some of the data that was out there. And both the auditor and our year-end report also ask about course type information. And when looking at all that data and connecting with stakeholders, it became clear that the existing definitions, while they were fairly clear and concise, were somewhat difficult to label and practice. I'm referring to that 20% threshold of whether a course is site-based or remote. And one of the key areas is that that type was based on the weekly in-person instruction. And we were finding that there was challenges when students had different percentages of on-site time over the course of the year. So these new definitions loosen this a little bit and focus on whether or not there is in-person instructional contact with the certificated teacher or not. And it ties it all back to the written student learning plan. These new definitions only impact site-based and remote courses. Online courses keep the old language. So the new definition of a site-based course is any alternative learning experience course where the written student learning plan for the course includes a requirement for in-person instructional contact time. And the definition of remote is the opposite of that. It's a course that's not online, where the written student learning plan does not have a requirement for in-person instructional contact time. ALE, the course type, describes the instructional model for a particular student in a particular course. It's not a student level designation or a school level designation. So students can be taking a variety of course type combinations. And that's what this slide represents, is a student can be taking any combination of an online course, site-based course, a remote course, and potentially some traditional courses in a comprehensive school as well. Here you'll see an overview of what reporting elements are required for ALE courses. The ALE course type in the student schedule and student grade history files are what flag a course as ALE and is what generates any and all information available about students taking ALE courses. If you think that you're reporting this course type flag and this information, but are not sure if it's coming through to OSPI, connect with your district student information coordinator or district data security manager, because all elements of the CEDARS reporting are stored in your district student information system. And then that student information system submits to CEDARS. So the first step in exploring if you are reporting these flags would be to connect with your district folks. You can also use the CEDARS reporting guide or the ALE reporting guides on our website to work with your district coordinator to know where to enter the data relevant to each file and each element. One challenge that we experience from an alternative learning department perspective is that districts statewide can use different student information systems. And we are not always familiar with how those local information systems are set up or created, because that's a local control decision. So we're not necessarily able to explain what this means or what it will look like from a data entry perspective at the student or course level when a registrar or office manager sits down to enter this data into the student information system. That level of detail on the data entry process will be different depending on the student information system that's used. So while we can provide guidance and technical assistance on the data elements that are required to be submitted into CEDARS, your district level student information representatives, in collaboration with your student information system developers, may be the best resources for specifics on how this data gets entered. As the course types have changed, the valid values associated with these course types have also changed slightly. The specific valid value associated with the ALE course type is how we have a common definition of what's being reported statewide, so data can be looked at and viewed through the same lens. The valid values are what is submitted to CEDARS and identifies courses with a particular course type. Here you will see the valid values for the 2018-19 school year. The online valid value is still O. The remote valid value is still R. And the valid values for site-based will now be two options, including T, which means that the WSLP for the course requires at least weekly in-person instructional contact time, or U, where the WSLP requires less than weekly in-person instructional contact time. Keep in mind that instructional contact time includes any and all instructional activities related to the course. That could include learning activities, assessments, contact time with the certificated teacher about progress in a course, or any communication between the student and the teacher related to the course. One resource that we have created to help in determining what course type should be assigned to a course and what valid value applies is this flowchart that you see on your screen. If you do want a copy of this flowchart, I would be happy to send it to you, and my contact information will be at the end of this presentation. The information that is represented here in this graph was something that was initially brought to our attention by the state auditor's performance audit team and was confirmed by our team through a process of comparing the head count that districts claimed via their enrollment reporting with the head count that they were submitting to CEDARS. So the graph that you are looking at represents all districts that claimed ALE enrollment in the 2016-17 school year. And you'll see that 32% of those districts that received ALE funding had data in CEDARS that aligned with their enrollment reporting claims. We wouldn't necessarily expect it to be absolutely perfectly the same, but we would expect them to be fairly similar. 39% of districts had some data reported in CEDARS, but not close to aligning with what they were claiming for enrollment. And then 29% of districts who claimed funding had no CEDARS data at all. And this information highlights a data issue within ALE if only 32% of districts appear to be submitting all student data to CEDARS. These discrepancies lead to significant impact on data quality. And stakeholders trying to use this data are not able to make decisions or inferences related to ALE. It can also create a challenge when advocating for ALE initiatives when we have a lack of data to support those initiatives. We understand that there are a lot of challenges in collecting and maintaining student data for alternative programs when the student information systems don't necessarily complement the variety of metrics and data programs are required to track. And that may lead to programs using additional systems such as Google Drive or Wings to track data and then find themselves having to do dual data entry so that data can be submitted to CEDARS. And we're working to try and advocate to alleviate some of that. If you are someone who is experiencing those kinds of challenges with dual data entry and getting student data into your student information system, and you want to connect with us and to share a little bit about what those challenges are, we would certainly love to hear from you. If you are using additional data systems such as Google Drive or Wings, is the information that's being captured in there submitted to CEDARS? And if you're wondering what data looks like for your program, we encourage you to take a look at your enrollment reporting data and compare it to what shows up in CEDARS. Data in the next few slides is a selection of what was submitted to CEDARS for the 2016-17 school year. When looking at these graphs and numbers, please keep in mind the data quality issues that I just shared in the previous slide. The graphs you will see are based on limited student data, and until we can improve the quality of the data submitted to CEDARS, we need to examine this demographic information with caution. But here you'll see a breakdown of student race ethnicity. The comparison is between students who are flagged as having at least one ALE course type versus all students statewide. Based on this data, there does seem to be some disproportionality of race ethnicity of students taking ALE courses as compared to the distribution of race ethnicity statewide. This next graph represents a variety of student groups, including special education status, homeless status, free and reduced lunch, and others. Again, it compares the percentage of students in each group indicated as having at least one ALE course versus all students statewide. In these final graphs, you'll see a breakdown of the population of students indicated as having at least one ALE course type. The first graph is the enrollment status. You'll see students who have at least one ALE course type who have ALE as only a part of their schedule, and students who are taking all ALE courses. You'll also see a breakdown by grade level, elementary, middle, and high school. We are definitely looking forward to doing some work to improve the data that's submitted to CEDARS this year, because if we can do that, then we can have a better sense of demographics statewide. And if we can improve that data throughout the course of this year, the 2018-19 school year, then we can start looking at that data ideally during the fall of 2019. But for this to happen, we definitely need your help to improve some of the data quality. So how do we do that? How do we all work together to improve the amount and quality of data submitted to CEDARS? Both the Alternative Learning Department and Student Information Department have been working to study the types of data submitted. We are looking at what is causing discrepancies, what the challenges for programs are, and trying to figure out where we can best support different districts and programs. We're working to develop tiered supports for programs. We have guidance on our website that's intended to assist in determining course types and guidance on how and what information does need to be submitted to CEDARS. We are also working on protocols and data reports to provide to districts that would allow them to view and validate their CEDARS data. We really hope to offer some of these supports in partnership with districts and programs. It's intended to be a supportive process where we can help serve programs by providing guidance and assistance without being evaluative. We're here to help figure out how we can find solutions to data quality problems. Here you'll see an overview of the supports we currently plan to make available. We plan to do some outreach to districts and programs with limited or no data submitted to CEDARS. We've also started asking about CEDARS reporting during our OSPI compliance reviews. Those are conducted by our ALE and Re-Engagement Compliance Manager, Liz Quayle. If you know that she's coming out to one of your schools this year, she may ask you about your CEDARS reporting. And any other site visits that we do over the course of this year, it's definitely something that we want to ask and learn more about. As I mentioned earlier, we definitely need your help with this effort. There are a variety of things that programs can do to review and improve data quality. We encourage you to ask questions. If you're confused by reporting requirements, ask for clarification. Then look at your data and your systems for reporting and ask questions about how it works and how data is submitted to CEDARS. Know where to find the reporting requirements. OSPI has a variety of resources linked on our website, a couple that I mentioned already, the CEDARS reporting guidance, the reporting handbook. There's an ALE reporting guide that's specific to alternative learning experience. There's also an online learning guide that's specific to online learning. All these things are available on our website. And once you know where to find information and have a solid understanding of the process, do some checkpoints to ensure that your program is accurately categorizing course types. And if through your exploration and learning you discover ways of improving systems, advocate for that. If you are experiencing challenges, reach out to us, let us know what they are. We might not have an immediate solution, but we can certainly advocate for better student information systems. And we really encourage programs to take a look at their CEDARS data. Conduct those data quality checks. That might look like finding out how much enrollment a program claimed in a given month, and then logging into CEDARS to see if those headcounts align. Or select a few random students and pull them up in CEDARS. Make sure the required components show up. And if you're wondering how to access CEDARS or who has access for your program, you can contact your district level student information folks. You can contact us, and then we have a way to look it up or figure out who that is. So if you're not sure who to contact in your district, let us know and we can connect you to that person. All right, I saw the Q&A flashing, so I'm going to check and see if we have any questions. We have a question that wonders if ALE students are part of the mainstream education entities on Skyward, or are ALE students placed in their own entity on Skyward? So the answer to that question depends on how your Skyward system is set up. All ALE students should be included in Skyward or whatever student information system your district is using. Some districts and schools will have separate school entity codes for an ALE school and others won't. So depending on your district, you may have your ALE students just showing up like any other student in a non-ALE or a traditional school setting might be. If you do have a separate school entity code, then your ALE students will show up in that separate entity. So it really depends on how your district system is set up. Our department has gotten a lot of questions recently about using placeholders in the course, the student course schedule. An example of that would be if you have students taking a really significant variety of classes and maybe they move in and out of those classes throughout the year, schools and ALE programs are wondering, can you just put a placeholder in that student schedule? Our recommendation on that is to not put a placeholder in there. The recommendation from our department is that the student schedule reflects what's happening, and that is for a number of reasons, some related to information that then also gets reported to like the certification office or the teacher that's teaching, and a number of other reasons. But that being said, I know that is a challenge for a lot of programs, and so if you find yourself in that situation where you're having to put a whole ton of work into making the student schedule reflect what's happening in reality, let us know. Reach out to us. We would really like to hear why you might use that placeholder versus reporting the actual course. Let us know what some of those challenges are, and we can go from there. But at this point, the recommendation of our department has been not to use placeholders. The next question, will we be contacting districts that are not reporting data in CEDARS? Yes, we are planning to do some outreach over the course of the school year. I don't have an exact timeline for you yet of when that would be, but one of our initial steps is to we're working with the student information department to try and create a data validation report is the best way that I can explain it. That would go out to districts, and it would be a copy of what I described, that comparison from their enrollment reporting claims that they've made versus their CEDARS data. And we would like to be able to send that out to districts this school year at 4 separate time points as kind of like a benchmark to let districts know how they're doing. So that's one way that we would be sharing information with districts. Another way is that we are hoping to do some direct outreach to districts that haven't had any history of CEDARS reporting. But if you remember the chunks from that pie chart, it's a pretty significant number, 30-ish%. So it's going to take us some time to work through that. But we are hoping to start doing some of that outreach this fall. As soon as we can get some reports created and sent out, that will happen. And more direct outreach might happen later this fall. Before I get to the slide that has our contact information, I just wanted to show this slide real quick with some of the resources that I have mentioned. The CEDARS manual is a good resource. It's updated annually and covers all the required CEDARS data elements. We have an ALE specific reporting guide that addresses reporting for ALE courses. That can be a great resource if you're wondering just from the ALE lens what is required in terms of reporting. As a side note, it also includes information on the ALE guide, includes information on enrollment reporting and the end of year report. And again, some of your best resources might be at your district level. Your student information coordinator or CEDARS administrator can be a great resource in talking through how your student information system is set up. And again, always our department and our website. Feel free to reach out to us, subscribe to our newsletter if you haven't already. That's how we send out most of our new information and updates. So here you'll see a variety of contacts. All of us at the Alternative Learning Department would be happy to help you. There's my email, Anissa Sherritt. There's also email address for Rhett Nelson, our Alternative Learning Department Director, and our general ALD info email address. We have a feedback survey that's linked from our website. And then lastly, our student information department, we work quite a bit with Lisa Ireland, who I mentioned is out doing CEDARS reporting presentations at all the ESDs this month. She's another great resource and is helpful to kind of get into the more technical aspects of how reporting works. I don't see any other questions that have popped up. So I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this webinar. I hope you have had a great start to the school year. And if you have any questions about reporting, data, anything really, you're always welcome to reach out to us. And I hope you all have a wonderful week. Thank you very much.